Hello, and welcome to my channel. And welcome to the second ever edition of the warm-up lab. And today we're talking about the MILLROSE games. And I am so excited to cover the MILLROSE games. First of all, just as a disclaimer, I am recording this on Saturday, January 24th. So any updates or any scratches that are made after that date, I don't know about because they're happening in the future. I would love to start recording these videos closer to when the meets start, but this week it's just not possible for me, so we're working with what we have. Before I get into it, I just want to say I'm so excited to make this video because I personally love the MILLROSE games. First of all, I love the Armory. The Armory is where I went and watched my first ever in-person pro track meet last year at USA's. And MILLROSE is also the first ever professional track event that I remember watching live on TV. Now, this was probably 7 or 8 years ago, but I remember it very vividly. And I also remember it because the Wanamaker Trophy looks like the Stanley Cup, and my dad always makes jokes about it because we're huge hockey fans. So this meet holds a very special place in my heart as a track fan, so I'm super excited to be covering it. And I think we are in for an absolute treat. This meet, my God, guys, it's going to be so good. There's so much interest. Obviously, I really like watching distance events as well as the sprints, the hurdles. Honestly, I like watching everything, but especially those weird indoor distances can be really fun, and we do have a couple of those this year. We'll have the 3,000 meter for the women's. We'll have the 2 mile on the men's side. We'll also have the 600 meter on the men's side and the 1,000 meter on the women's side, as well as a men's 800, which I think it's interesting. They're doing a 600 and an 800. I think it's great. I'm never going to complain about watching more track, but it is interesting. So as far as the professional kind of events that we have, which are after the opening ceremony, this is how the schedule is if you want to watch the MILLROSE games. Opening ceremony is at 3:50 on February 1st, which is a Sunday. And then they'll start off with the women's and men's 60-meter hurdles, then the 60 meters flat. Then they'll go to the 3,000 shot put for the men's, the women's 600, the men's 2 mile. Then they'll have some high school events sprinkled throughout the schedule as well. But then the Nike men's 600, the women's 1,000, and then the men's 800, and then they do all of their fancy schmancy stuff, they do the national anthem and everything, and then they finish out the night with the 2 Wanamaker miles, which that's where they give out the Stanley Cup trophy per se, because it looks like I don't actually remember what the trophy is called. I think it's just the Wanamaker trophy, but it looks like the Stanley Cup, so we always refer to it as the Stanley Cup. So that's the headline of the night. And guys, the names this year are so good, especially because I am recording this the night, literally the New Balance Grand Prix finished up about an hour and a half ago. So I am revving to go. I want to see everybody race again. I am so excited. I just watched 2 world records, guys. I am a hype right now, okay? But I do want to start by talking about the fields for the Wanamaker miles because those are the big events. First of all, on the men's side, so for the men's Wanamaker mile field, we have Yared Nuguse, obviously 343 man, and he has been eyeing all of the records in the 1,500 and the mile, so that will be super interesting. Hobbs Kessler, who is the brand new, newly minted world record holder at the 2,000 distance. Cameron Myers and Ollie Hoare of Australia, both 347 men. Gary Martin, Robert Farkin, Festus Legat, Andrew Kosker, the Irishman, who has a 349, and Nico Young and Josh Hoey. Josh Hoey, the newly minted 800-meter indoor world record holder, and also American record holder with that, obviously breaking the American record that he set when I was there watching in person last year. They both have a 350 and 352 respectively. However, with both of their forms over shorter or a little bit shorter of distances or a little bit longer of distances, you could say that who knows? Anything could happen. So it's obviously a super competitive field. And I know in last time's warm-up lap, I did not make predictions. This time I am going to make predictions for some events, not all of them. I'm gonna say Hobbs Kessler over Yard Naguse. I'm gonna say it's gonna be Kessler, Naguse, and Hoey. 1, 2, 3. I think Ollie Hoare could also get involved in maybe second or third. But that's my bold prediction. Will I look like an idiot next weekend? Maybe. One could say probably, but I don't know. It just, right now, that just feels right. And also, we haven't seen Yard Naguse yet this season, and when we saw him at the end of last season, he didn't look so great. Now, does that mean he's going to come back with a vengeance and destroy the field by like 2 seconds? Completely possibly. I could 100% see that happening, but I cannot root against, like, or put my vote against Hobbs Kessler right now. He just looks so good and so strong. So that is going to be my very controversial pick for the men's side. And yes, I also know Yard Naguse has won this title 3 times. I know it's a crazy prediction, okay? Just stay with me here. Now, on the women's side, they haven't released the full field, but they've released most of the field. Elle St. Pierre, Jess Hall, Nikki Hiltz, Dorcas Ewoy, and Sinclair Johnson will be the headliners. There is probably honestly only going to be 1 or 2 other women in the field. So that's most of the field. Elle St. Pierre just made her comeback race. We saw Elle St. Pierre at the New Balance Grand Prix, a very impressive win over Jess Hall in the 3,000 meters. So she also has won this title also 3 times, I believe. So incredibly impressive. Jess Hall, obviously reigning Olympic silver medalist. Nikki Hiltz, they were an American record holder. Now they're second fastest in the 1,500 and mile outdoors. Dorcas Ewoy, obviously on fire, on an absolute tear. We saw her win the 1,500 at the New Balance Grand Prix. She's in excellent form this season and obviously was the silver medalist at last year's World Championships. And Sinclair Johnson, been around the national circuit, so strong on the national circuit for so long, 3-time World Championship qualifier, amazing athlete. This one is so hard to predict, and I will just say I am partial to Elle St. Pierre. She's one of my favorite track athletes, and I'm so glad to see her back and in amazing form. And Jess Holt, she did look beaten at the end of that 3,000 that we saw her run at New Balance, but this is her main event for Jess Hall. And honestly, I really do think it also comes down to the type of race it is. Is it going to be out from the gun? I think probably. So that's something to keep in mind, because if it is tactical, we're talking a whole different ball game. I'm thinking we might see Dorcas Ewoy, though. She just looks so good. I'm gonna put out another wild prediction and say we see Dorcas Ewoy and I think Elle St. Pierre right behind, and I think it'll be either Jess Hall or Nikki Hiltz. I lean towards Jess Hall for third, but I think it could be either one. That is going to be my bold prediction, is that we see Dorcas Ewoy on top, hoisting the Wanamaker Trophy. Again, will I look like an idiot in about a week? Possibly, probably, maybe. But that's what predictions are for. They're for being wrong. So that is my guess, and I do want to hear all of your guesses in the comments down below. So obviously these are incredibly stacked fields, and what's crazier is the depth of all of these fields doesn't even end there. The women's 1K is also going to be super interesting. Sage Hurtaklecker, Sarah Diguma, Addie Wiley, Gemma Ricci, and Maggie Cogden are in that field. That is such a good field. It's such an evenly matched field, in my opinion. The only one who doesn't have a recorded 1,000, well, no, there's 2. Diguma and Cogden don't have recorded 1,000s. But Hurtaklecker 233, Wiley 230, and Riki 231. Obviously, it's not a very commonly raced distance, so is that indicative of their true talents, abilities, or form? Who knows? As far as what I think for that race, see, again, I do want to say I'm always partial towards Addie Wiley, but I think this could be a field where Gemma Riki or Sage Hurtakucker could really come into their powers and really take it away. And I feel like Gemma Riki has a really good chance of doing that. I think Gemma Riki is a very solid pick for this. And I just think a lot of her accolades make it make sense that she would be a very strong at this unusual 1,000-meter distance. But I don't know. Let me know. Once again, let me know what you guys think. As far as the men's 800, they have released a full field for this. Sian McPhillips, Mohamed Atoui, Bryce Hoppel, Donovan Brazier, Ben Padson, and Colin Salmon. So 3 Americans, 3 Europeans, yes, I was double checking, for this men's 800-meter field. And all of them are like bang on 142, except for Salman. He's a 144 guy. But this race is basically impossible to predict. They are all so evenly matched, but I've seen way too much of Atoui on the European circuit, especially indoors. I have seen him slingshot some absolutely incredible bends. Like at European indoors last year, I think was the first one that comes to mind. He can slingshot a bend. And at the Armory, I feel like you can get some momentum slingshotting around those bends. And because of that, I kind of think he might be my favorite. It's hard to put him in front of Bryce Hoppel and Donovan Brazier, but on an indoor track, I'm trying to imagine, and I see him absolutely slingshotting it because he has done that, I feel like, so many times. But I think Bryce Hoppel and Donovan Brazier will definitely be, for sure, right up there in the conversation as well. But that's my, again, crazy, insane pick. As far as the others, for the men's 2 mile, God, guys, these fields, how do they get these people? For the men's 2 mile, we have Cole Hawker, Cooper Tier, Drew Hunter, Edwin Kurgat, Ethan Strand, George Beamish, Graham Blanks, Grant Fisher, Jake Whiteman, Josh Kerr, Kai Robinson, and Parker Wolf. Eventually, after I read like a bunch of names, they all just blur together in my eyeballs. And so I'm trying to be like, what is this actually saying? For this race, guys, I don't know. It's hard to bet against Cole Hawker. It's hard to bet against Grant Fisher. Last time, Fisher unleashed something absolutely incredible. Will it be him again? But Josh Kerr, it's hard to bet against Josh Kerr, but it's a 2 mile. That's like a weird distance. We haven't seen him run a lot. And then we have Beamish in there too, and like Graham Blanks in there. I'm not predicting this one. I don't want to predict this one. Like, I truly don't. If I had to make a prediction, I would say Cole Hawker, if I had to. But I don't want to because this field is just so good that I just want to sit back and be like mind blown for however long it takes them to get to the finish line. I just want to be watching eyes wide, locked in, because this race, I am so excited for this race. I'm so excited to watch Millrose. I have literally had Millrose. I have a little journal that I write in every night before bed. And since Christmas, basically, I write like things that I'm looking forward to when I journal. Since Christmas, I've been writing, what are you looking forward to? I'm looking forward to watching Millrose. I'm looking forward to watching Millrose because this meet is going to be so good. I'm so excited. And then I watched today. There were 2 world records today. I'm so excited. I'm having a grand old time. And then I'll just like zoom through some of the others. I'm not going to predict any other events, I don't think, but I'll zoom through some of the other headliners. There will be a high school boys invitational 400 that Quincy Wilson is running in. We saw him run at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix, so that will be interesting. And then we will also have the women's 3,000. The big names here, or the big like rematch per se here, is Jane Hendegren and Doris Lemengel. It's going to be like their rematch per se, but there will also be some big names on the professional circuit like Josette Andrews. They haven't announced all the names yet, but that's just what we have so far. And then on the sprint side, we will have the 60 meters and the 60-meter hurdles. Cordell Tinch, Daniel Roberts, and Dylan Beard will all be running in the 60-meter hurdles. Normally, I would pick Tinch all the way. Tinch looked super duper beatable, honestly. Maybe at an off day, it's super easy to have an off day in the 60-meter hurdles because it's such a short and tactical race. But I feel like that is going to be a pretty open 60-meter hurdles. And for the 60-meter flat, we'll have Jordan Anthony, Akeem Blake, and Marcellus Moore headlining that one on the men's side. So that's going to be super interesting. I couldn't find anything from on the women's side, anything definite about people who definitely are or aren't running, but it will be interesting to see how that unfolds as well. And when the races are over, you'll see me right back here with the cool down lap. In the meantime, though, guys, let me know your predictions and what race you're most excited to watch at the Millrose Games in 2026 down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see y'all later. Bye!